And welcome Just a Family. This is giving you something to talk about live TV. I'm your host, Melissa Krechler. I'm an identity coach, spiritual teacher, business mentor, creator and founder of Just a Live TV, and creator and founder of the Women Supporting Women Can Network. I am joined today by my amazing guest co-host, Kathryn Cartwright, and we're going to be talking today about creative writing. Now, our sponsor for today is Write, Edit, Share, which is a website and a company that helps you learn how to creatively tell your story through your own books. So they're offering you a lot of information on how to do that. I was going to say clarity session because that's what I offer, but a discovery call. They're offering you that on the website to book with them to see how they can intuitively help you write your own story in a way that really, really grabs your audience. So that is our sponsor for today. If you wouldn't mind going liking, following, sharing, like and follow on any social media platform. We are on 12. Go and check out the website at justalivetv.com. You can join our newsletter there and get updated and notified of what's coming up, what episodes we have, and so much more. Go and do that on that link. So now I'm going to hand it over to my co-host today, who is none other, again, than Kathryn Cartwright. Kathryn, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, Melissa. I'm really excited to be here to talk about creative writing and how to relax into it, because that is like my most passionate favorite thing to talk about lately, due to the fact that as an author, I had to learn how to do that myself. I've spent 22 years as an auditor, so I've lived in my masculine, not so creative energy, and yet I was called to write, and I was called to be more involved in my creative life, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And then I ended up helping clients when I was helping them doing editing, also figure out how to do it themselves so they could relax in their writing to get their stories told. So I'm really excited to be here so that we can help a whole bunch of people figure out how to do their creative writing or their creative endeavors, maybe not just writing.
Absolutely. And as women, it is a very feminine concept to create, and not to say that it isn't. Men are absolutely amazing at creating as well, but it is a feminine energy that is portrayed as creators, because Mother Earth, Mother Nature, we are, as women, we have the ability to create. There's a meme that goes around, or a saying that goes around: you give a woman a house, she creates a home. You give a woman food and she creates a meal. You give a woman other things and she creates a baby. So there's a lot of things that women create. So today I went and did a TikTok, and I shared it on our TikTok. So if anybody's watching, please go and join and follow us on TikTok so that we can go live on TikTok. But I did a TikTok today, and I put my hair in ponytails. I put on a striped dress because it's starting to get nice out. And I was like, oh, I'm, empowering or embracing my inner Addams family today. And it got me thinking about the creative writing and writing from your soul, and just creating something different. And most of us, or many of us, know the Addams family. If you're watching or catching the replay, type in the comments whether or not you know the Addams family. But we have so many. It started off with a cartoon, and then the TV show, and then the movies, and now we have an animated movie. And I grew up watching the Addams family, and I went and did a little bit of research, and the Addams family was actually created by Charles Addams as a cartoon, in a newspaper, right? So it was a lot of written content and a lot of written. He wrote from his soul. He did creative writing, and that's how you get all of the comic strips, all of Archie and Archie and Friends, and all of those different things came from creative writing. So what do you like about soul writing or creative writing? What's your favorite thing to talk about with that?
Oh, for me, it's the bubbly feeling that comes as I'm writing. And it took a lot for me to get to that bubbly feeling. I'm not going to say it was not effort to get there after having so many English teachers say, you have to write this way, you have to do it this way. And of course, you know, you get to college and you're still having to write a certain way, and you're being told, oh, you're not good at writing, or oh, that didn't, you know, like you're totally doing something completely not right. And honestly, full writing, there's nothing wrong about it. It's truly coming. Your soul is saying, this is what you want to say, this is what you want to do, this is what you want to be. And to allow that bubbly, happy champagne like feeling to come out while you're writing, it's such a beautiful thing. And I think that that's one of the things that some people are really brave and they ignore all of those negative voices that they hear from parents and teachers and friends. And then there are the rest of us who maybe took it a little more to heart and didn't ignore it, and sort of started dimming that bubbly feeling over time until we forgot how to have that bubbly feeling. And I think that's my that's my favorite part about doing the creative writing, full writing, because I never know what's actually going to come out on the paper until I'm done writing. Like it just flows out when I sit down to do it now. And that was really that was a big shift. That was a huge shift in reality.
I love creative writing. So I'm an author. I self-published, and I wrote, excuse me, I sat down one day and I was inspired. I was inspired to write my book and my story on how I created my ideal relationship. And I sat down one day and wrote that book cover to cover in 7 hours. And it was just, it just flowed. Everything came out. Now there was obviously editing and everything like that, but I wrote the content of the book in 7 hours. And it was because I was in that flow. I was in that place. If you're ever sitting there, and I think today what I want to focus on is we're not just talking about writing your books. We're talking about any form of written communication. If you are writing somebody a letter, if you are journaling, if you are writing affirmations, if you're anything that you're writing, when it easily flows, and I'm going to go into a spiritual, because I'm a spiritual teacher, so I'm going to go into that spiritual for a moment, is if you sit down to write something, and again, whether that's in your journal, an affirmation, a letter to somebody, whatever it is that you're starting to write, when you're sitting there and you're feeling blocked and you don't know what to write and you don't know how to start, you don't know how to finish, if you are stuck in your writing process, that comes down to a lack of flow. And that for me is your soul saying, maybe you're not aligned. Maybe this isn't what you're supposed to be writing. Maybe you're not in tune with your intuition and in your, your higher self, your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it. Maybe you're not in tune with that. And that's what's creating that lack of flow. I know for myself, when there's also, and forgive me for bouncing around, but there's also that time where, maybe it's not the right time. And that's, divine's way of saying, it's not the right time to write this story, or it's not the right time to write this program. I have 20 plus programs sitting in my cabinet at my knee right now that I have yet to put in course format. And it's because I wasn't ready. I wasn't at that point where I'm ready. Now I just took an entire webinar and created an ebook on it. And it took me half the day. And it was just because I was ready and I had that flow going and it was easier. So if you're ever questioning what to write or when to write, or it flows when you're in the proper headspace and the proper intuition, it just flows.
It does. It really does. I totally agree. I was writing, and I am not normally a fiction writer, nor like I'm an avid fiction reader, but I never really stepped into writing fiction. Like that wasn't something that I thought I was stepping into. I was writing nonfiction and self-help and I challenged myself and some friends, and we wrote each one of us wrote a chapter in an anthology for fiction. That story flowed. it was out on paper within 2 hours. Like 2,500 words were on paper in 2 hours. Like easy, easy, easy. And and I read it and I was like, wow, that just flowed. And it's worked that way for me before for the nonfiction side, but it had never felt and flowed that way for the fiction side. And then I turned around and I did it again with a 5,000 word story. I got that done in 5 hours with the editing. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, like it really does. Like when you're in the flow, you know that you're writing what you're supposed to write. And not just writing. I would say it works that way probably with painting or music or, like any of those creative things that you're doing. And it just comes and it comes out of you the easiest way possible. Like I could imagine that it works that way for I'm not much of a painter and I definitely don't write music, but I could see that working the exact same way. Like I watched my uncle who was a musician, and when he was in flow, he wrote like he wrote the songs without any, like, he couldn't stop. Like it was almost like he was compelled to sit there and finish writing it when he was in flow, because you just didn't notice time went by.
Well, and anything that you're creating, and that's the beautiful part of it. It is anything that you're creating. I started a new business with a business partner a few weeks ago. And as soon as we decided on the concept, I had 4 pages of what we were going to offer, how it was going to look like. It was just, I couldn't stop. And that came even with the show. When I started to create Just a Live TV, I thought about it and launched it within the hour. And it was because it was so in flow and everything was just going really well in that moment. But again, creative writing or creative anything isn't just about being in flow either. It's also a release. I don't know how many people, myself included, when I'm writing, whether I'm having a hard day, whether I'm, really struggling with a decision or something's going on, if I write it out, if I talk about it, if, it's that expression or release of those emotions. That's why affirmations work so well, right? Cutting cords. Now, for anybody who's purchased my ebook, Spiritual Protection, or anybody who's into spirituality, cutting cords, right? Removing people, from your energy. My grandma, I'm talking like my grandma was in her mid to late 70s when she passed away. And I was 19 or 18, sorry. And she used to write people's names down. Like if she was mad at me or if she was mad at my brother, she would write our name down and then scratch it out. And just scratch it out on the paper, right? She'd write your name down and she'd scratch it out. And she's like, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. And she would just scratch it out. And that's a form of release. That's a form of cord cutting, right? Even writing down how you're feeling, writing down the situation, writing down something that's making you emotional, and it helps remove the emotion of it. So when you're writing, you're creating that, you're putting that emotion onto that paper.
Yeah. And I do much the same thing. Like there are many times where I have my journal that is my more positive journal, and then I have my notebook that then I scribble and I write, and I just write until all the emotion is out, and then I take a piece of paper and I go burn it, like so that like it's just gone, and sometimes sometimes there are some things that are emotional enough. It takes 2 or 3 times for me to like get it all out around that, but it does, like, and it really is this. I can feel it within my body. Like I can feel like the physical relief when I'm done writing. And sometimes it's here, and sometimes I'm like have tears screaming to the point where I can't see what I'm writing anymore. But it doesn't matter because it's just out. And it is a beautiful thing to do.
Yep. It's so transformative. And this isn't a promotion, but that's one of the first things I ask my clients to do. When I meet with a client who's struggling emotionally and struggling with their identity, I tell them to find something, a way to express their emotions. So a way to express their emotions, a way to release their emotions, a way, something that helps relax them. Oftentimes writing is one of those things where writing down what's going on, writing down, your dreams. I have right beside me actually, oops, is my dream book, right? And I write in there. I haven't written, actually, this is my journal too. This is my journal that I haven't written in months. But again, it's so different, and you don't have to be a writer to creatively write. I know that as a spiritual, we do soul writing as readings as well, right? I was trained in how to do readings through writing and just allowing messages to come through the written word, which is quite interesting. So what do you think about people connecting to their intuition when it comes to writing?
For me, that's the way I have to connect my intuition. So my mind is so busy all the time. Like it's just constantly churning. It's just part of who I am, and I understand that. I've been that way since I was really little, and um, and then of course I also have 4 children, so that means that with 4 children, I'm constantly on mom mode half the time. So even if my intuition's trying to get through to me during daylight hours, it's not going to happen easily if I'm not writing. And so I actually that's how I start my morning. I start my morning as I have my cup of lemon water and I sit down and I sit and I just write and I say, what am I supposed to know today? Sometimes it flows really easily and sometimes it doesn't flow easily at all. And some days I sit there and I'm just tapping my pen like what am I supposed to be writing? Because nothing's coming through. And then I sometimes have to take that deep breath and be like, all right, my brain is not letting something come through for some reason. So how do I get my brain out of the way so that that soul writing can actually come through and not be edited so that my brain's just trying to keep me safe from like having to deal with something that's emotional or something that, I mean, that's what our brains are. We've got evolution that's made us do this, right? Like our brains are meant to keep us safe because physically, if we're not safe, we've got an issue, but that doesn't mean that our heart and our soul should be totally blocked by our brain trying to keep it safe all the time. So for me, like there are times where like I have to do some meditation before I can actually get something on paper, and it works out okay. Like I mean, it's just the acknowledgement that there are days where it is a rough write. Like it's not an easy day to like just put something on paper, and yet then there are other mornings where I'm like, oh my gosh, like an hour has just passed and that was a really long write that I didn't intend to take an hour, but it did. And so again, that was the right amount of time because I needed to get it all out on paper. So I love using writing to talk to my intuition, or my intuition to talk to me maybe more to be able to get around my brain keeping me safe.
So what would you suggest to people who might not feel comfortable writing or might, we all do this where I'm not a great artist, right? If you asked me to draw or paint or anything along, I'd be like, no, can't do it. I'm horrible at it. I still can. Obviously, there are things that I can do. And I'm artistic in different endeavors, and I'm creative in different endeavors. But for somebody who believes that they can't write or aren't great at it or aren't capable of it, what would you suggest to them in this stage if they really want to share their story? What would you say to them?
I would suggest 2 different options. So the first one is really simple and easy and doesn't really take much thought in general. Like you have to just have a pen and a paper, or you can type it on your cell phone, or like it's not something that requires anything special. And that literally is to just sit on your porch, sit outside, sit somewhere where you have something that's different to look at. Or even if it's not something that's different to look at, really pay attention to all the little details and try to describe that thing in so many details, with so many like descriptive words, it kind of gets your brain to start thinking creativity on that creative level again. Because sometimes, we're in such, and this is the one blessing I have to say COVID did give me. I sat down every moment, like every morning during lockdown, and I literally was looking out my window, and what did I see in 5 minutes? And I spent 5 minutes writing about what I saw out the window. That's not an exciting writing, and it's definitely not something I necessarily would totally share with people. But what I noticed is that from the beginning of COVID, where I had to slow down and stop completely, until a year into this entire situation, where, like, it wasn't that I was still locked down, but, like, I still wasn't going out and doing a lot of things. So I was able to still keep that momentum going of that 5 minutes in the morning. When I look back, my first ones were very, very stilted. They were not descriptive. By the time I got a year into just sitting and doing these 5 minute musings, is kind of what I was jokingly calling them. I had something that almost could paint, like, I could paint a picture for somebody else, and they could actually and visualize what I had written because of how descriptive I had finally got. So I mean, like, that one's really simple and easy, and I think anybody can do that. Like, because all it does is require you to just, like, stop and pause for that 5 minutes and really pay attention to details around it. And that's, like, for me, that was like a really powerful start to letting my creativity, to be able to write great. I mean, nonfiction writing is like, I had the flow before, but like, to step into doing really creative writing, I had to do these baby steps to get there. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to start out with, and then it got.
I just had an amazing thought. Is I'm big on writing. I'm big on reading. But I'm always asking questions of people, and even my own clientele. It's always, what do you think? How are you feeling? All of that. And I'm glad that you mentioned COVID, because that is something that a lot of us experienced. And could you imagine if, when we're going through a traumatic or overwhelming event or situation where we're very emotional, we're very in the midst of it, if we wrote down, once or twice a day, either at the end of the day, when the day is done and you're getting ready for bed, sit down and write your day, how you felt, what you experienced, what you did, all of your day, write that down, right? And then, you could add on at the beginning of the day what you expect for the day, what you're looking forward to, what you're not looking forward to. And then if you think about writing down while you're going through an experience every day, right? And just soul led writing, creatively writing, and just saying how you feel when you are done that experience, or as you're coming out of that experience, right? If you go back and you look at everything you experienced during that time frame, one, that could be a book in itself. Two is, and I'm all about transformation, right? I'm an identity coach and many different things. So I'm all about that transformation and learning what our experiences teach us and how we can use those experiences to move forward, right? The springboards. If you're writing down your experiences throughout the experience, not after, but during, my goodness, the things the things you can do in that time frame.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the part of the creative writing part, is how powerful it is and how amazing it is, because literally having your soul and your heart come out on the paper, you might not even realize this one little thing has been causing you a lot of stress. And I'm using stress generically because it could be any of those types of emotions, the anxiety, stress, etc. But when you write it down, for me at least, when you write it down, it really becomes something that you can actually take a hold of and do something about. Like, it's no longer this hidden something. Like, it's come out and you're like, oh, if that's really bothering me, and I didn't realize it because I was ignoring my heart and soul telling me it was bothering me because my brain didn't want to have that change happen in my life, suddenly you're able to like make a different choice. You can take a different step forward. It shifts dramatically how you look at the world in some cases, because suddenly, instead of feeling stuck and on the hamster wheel and it just keeps going and going and going in the same way, you can decide to get off that hamster wheel different. And maybe not a huge difference, but just having that one difference might shift enough that I mean, for me, that really did make a difference. It helped my mental outlook. It helped my mental vision. It made me realize that I was willing to try to write something that was much more creative than the nonfiction that I had been writing. Like it was something that if I hadn't done that, I don't know that I would have been doing it without having allowed my heart and soul to talk. And that, I think, is, I mean, that's the powerful part of it. Like, our souls tell us why. I mean, if we don't listen to our souls, how do we know what our path is on this planet? I mean, I think that's we're here for a reason. I firmly believe we're here for a reason. And if we don't allow our soul to help direct us on that reason, we're stuck on that hamster wheel without progressing wherever it is to go. And I think that's any creative endeavor, like it's helping you get that feeling, and your soul is able to talk to you in the way that works for you.
Yep. I absolutely love that. And I believe that everybody's intuitive, right? It's your sixth sense, it's your intuition, it's your mother's instinct, anybody. You leave your house and you're like, oh crap, I left the stove on, or the coffee maker, or whatever it is. That's that gut instinct, that sixth sense. That's your intuition. That's your intuition telling you things. And our bodies and our beings, we have access to that 24/7, but we don't understand it. And a lot of us, when we're in that position, we don't understand what that means. We don't understand how to utilize it, and how to tap into it, right? And when you do tap into it, it's freeing, right? It's the ability to go past what you're feeling and past what you're doing. And our energy is connected to our intuition. Our body is connected to our intuition. Our mindset is connected to our intuition. So it's all interconnected. And when you're not listening to one of them, the other one will pick that up. If you're not listening to that one, the other one will pick it up. And then if you have disease, as we like to call it, if you have disease, it's because you didn't listen to your intuition, you didn't listen to your energy, you didn't listen to your mindset, and now your body is saying, okay, you have no other options but to listen, right? Yeah. And it's this process. And when we do creative writing or writing from our soul, we allow that expression to come through, where maybe we are listening, right? If we were writing every day, and I know that, some people are like, well, I don't have time to write every day. Even if you write for 5 minutes at the end of your day and say, this is how I'm feeling today, or this is how I felt today. If you're trying to make changes to your body or your mindset or anything, if you're trying to make a transformation within your life, and you're writing down every day how you feel, you're going to see the signs, right? And then you're going to start to realize, oh, I did kind of sense that. And I kind of had a feeling that this was going to happen, or that this was, and you start to understand how your intuition actually works.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because when I do not, and this is consistent, when I do not pay attention to my intuition, and I do not stop when my intuition is telling me to stop, and sometimes like I was so used to go, busy. Literally, that would be when I got the cold that would not go away for like 8 days. That would be like, I mean, like I looked at it and I'm like, I don't have time to be sick. And yet, because I had missed all of the signs, I was in bed for 10 days, fighting off a cold, or feeling miserable even if I wasn't in the bed for 10 days. Like for 10 days I was like low energy and felt horrid, and I'm like, why? Well, because I didn't listen when my intuition was telling me to stop and pause and renew my energy that I was depleting faster than I was gaining. I mean, like, because again, I think a lot of us give and give and give and give, and that's not necessarily how naturally, like our natural rhythm maybe is not a give type of response for our energy. And then so then your body's like, you weren't listening. Like, I gave you this little pause and you didn't pay attention to the fact that I told you to pause. And then, oh, I gave you this bigger reason to pause and you still did not pause. You just kept right on going. Let me just help you slam on the brakes and you're done for a few days. Like I like looking back, I can say that that's happened regularly. And I have always journaled to some degree, maybe not regularly every day, but I could flip back and I'd be like, oh, there was that warning sign. Yeah, there's that warning sign. Oh yeah, that was a big warning sign that I totally just like blew through that stop sign.
Yeah, I agree. It's like today. So today in Canada, it's a holiday. It's Memorial is what is today. It's just Canada. So it's Victoria Day. Sorry. Next week is Memorial Day for you US folks. So today is a holiday for me. So it is Victoria Day here. And we were talking beforehand and I was yawning before the episode. And I think it had, listening to intuition, it was, okay, Melissa, you probably should have taken today off. Right. And like my whole family's home, they're all, downstairs slightly waiting for me. But everybody's home and it's, your body does give you these signs, right? That, and your intuition that, hey, maybe this probably wasn't a good idea. Or maybe you should take some, holidays off. And it is so empowering when we are capable of, finding those answers, and creative writing helps us find those answers. I don't know how many for there, I probably have 20 notebooks around me that are full, totally full, not even empty, just totally full. And it's all notes and inspiration and, ideas, and we have that capability, right? I'm a list maker. I was like making lists of things that I need to do. I have like 6 post-it notes on the bottom of my computer that I look at every day. Oh, I should probably do this and this and this. And creative writing opens up doors to things that I don't think most people understand that they have available to them. Expression. And I'm going to repeat this repeatedly throughout this video, is self-expression, right? Self-understanding, self-release, right? Being able to release what we're feeling, and, connecting to our higher selves and maybe to our spirit dream team, and getting those messages that we might be missing because we're not looking, right? We're not utilizing our intuition. Anything else you'd like to add? Like, what do you want to say about creative writing to our audience?
For me, I really believe, and this goes along with your intuition, like this goes along with the intuition discussion, and really, without doing the creative writing or a creative endeavor, like, because maybe it's painting, music, gardening even could be considered a creative endeavor, depending on how you do your gardening. With cooking is definitely a creative endeavor if you're not following recipes and you love doing it. But if you're not allowing that relaxation, and this is where I think the true creative part and the flow comes in. You have to like really relax into being willing to take that time to have that creative, instead of having the go, I've got to rush and get this done. I've got to rush and get that done. Like, your heart and your soul come through and tell you all sorts of interesting things when you slow down and stop and you're able to just pause and be. Like, doing is great because that's what gets things done. But sometimes you need to have that true deep pause, and you need to have your mind be able to relax and do something that allows you to get into the flow. And I think that's the one thing for me is that the more I do the creative writing, the more I'm able to relax into that flow more easily than what I had been able to before. Like I have trained my brain to be like, okay, we're doing our flow, heart, soul writing, trying to figure out where our cat.
Oh, you muted yourself.
That was interesting. Nothing like phone call coming in as I'm talking.
Hear that.
Yeah. But I think honestly, when I'm sitting and I have the flow and my creative path is showing, like my heart and soul is showing me the path, then I can actually say, okay, brain, how is this going to work? Because this is the path we need to be on. So what steps do we need to take? Like the brain gets to come back in at the end, because then that creates the strategy and the movement and the doing if it's something that you've written that you want to do something with. And if not, if it's just really allowing the heart and soul to have that emotional intuitive release that they need to have so that we're better off in general on our mental health, then that's great too. Like there's so many, like I feel like I lost something when I stopped allowing my creativity. And I stopped allowing my creativity. Like I'll be the first to admit, like I stopped it at one point when I was a teenager. Like I wasn't supposed to be creative. I was supposed to be like on this path and I was supposed to do this, and like because I had been told creativity doesn't make you money. Creativity doesn't do this. Creativity doesn't do that. And yet on the other hand, without their creativity, you can't do the business and you can't make the money, and because you're stopping yourself from being able to really like find the right path to do what you're meant to do. So I mean, like whatever releases that, I think is really the beautiful part of creative writing. I mean, for me at least, is that gave me that ability to figure it out all again.
Yeah. And it does. When you build a connection to yourself, right? And whatever creativity looks like for anybody watching or catching the replay, creativity is just connecting to yourself and creating something, right? Whether that be artwork or music or the written word, it doesn't matter. It's created by you. I wanted to mention it's like riding a bike. You had mentioned that it becomes easier. It's like riding a bike. I don't know if any of you were able to do this, but I was able to do this. So do you remember the old flip phones, or even just any old cell phone, right? When texting started, and when you started being able to text, because I was in my teens when texting became a thing. When texting started, you had to press the number one button 3 times to get C and all of the other ones, right? I could have a full paragraph conversation without even looking at my phone, because it became habit, right? You knew how many times to press each button to create a word. And anything that you do becomes a habit, like riding a bike. When you learn to walk, and then it's there. When you learn how to handwrite, it's there. You might not use it all the time, but it's still there. Math, it's still there. When you learn to tap into your intuition and tap into your creativity, it's still there, no matter how often you use it or not use it. And I think that if we just give it a try to build it and to claim it, it really does create that release and self connection, because that's really what it is.
It is, and that's so powerful, because I think we have been, I don't want to say trained, but in some ways trained to not connect to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because if we're connecting to ourselves, sometimes we're making loved ones uncomfortable. Sometimes we're making a boss uncomfortable. Sometimes we're making greater society uncomfortable for whatever it is and whatever reason. And And so we're taught, you know, like you have to color inside the line. You can't just color however you want to. You have to color inside the line.
Yeah, I cannot stand. I don't know. Did you watch that video? I cannot stand color inside the lines. Why? Why? Right? So they created coloring inside the lines for fine motor skills. That's exactly what it is. They wanted to create children how to utilize their fine motor skills and test them on their fine motor skills. But at the same time, there's so many different things that they can do with that, right? Pile those itty bitty little blocks on top of each other, right? Do something else that doesn't require the perfection of coloring inside the lines. That drives me nuts. My daughter, she doesn't color inside the lines. I'm like, it's gorgeous. Like, I don't care. It's gorgeous because it is. You think of how many $1 million paintings are bought and sold, and they're abstract. They're creative pieces. You know, some of our favorite novels and our favorite stories and movies are created, right? They're created by somebody who had an idea. You know, Albert Einstein, you know, electricity, created because somebody had a thought somewhere that this was a good idea, and they kept at it and kept trying different ways. You know, maybe you start writing, or maybe you start your artwork or taking classes or whatever, and you find all the ways that don't work for you. Try something different, right? Keep trying it, tweaking it, make it work for you. I am not, Kathryn, I swear, and everybody watching, every single one of my businesses, including this show, are focused on self-expression. They're focused on your unique identity, knowing that it is okay to be exactly who you are. And creative writing, creative art, and music, that's the same thing. You know, every actor and actress we watch on TV puts a part of themselves into their character because they're creating. Right? You look at animation, every movie, every kid's movie that's animated, majority of the time, the person voicing that character, there are characteristics of that voice in that character's description. Right? You look at Moana and The Rock, right? There were features of The Rock with him, like you know, the muscles and the size and the tattoos everywhere. That's The Rock, right? It might not have been completely, but it takes on characteristics. That's creativity. I don't know, yeah.
No, I agree. Like some of my favorite, like I have to admit, like watching some of the bonus features on some of the DVDs for kids shows where they're actually showing like that character didn't use that hand motion or didn't use that expression, but as the animators were watching the person who was doing the voice talking and moving and using their hands and that smile, suddenly they're like, oh, we're going back to the drawing board and erasing all that one little thing and making it so it fits the person who is doing the voicing, because it just makes it that much more powerful. So like so yeah, I mean, and I do believe that that's true for just even if you never share your rights with anybody, it makes you more self-aware and more powerful because you have that inner knowledge, that inner instinct again, that you might have drowned out with everybody else's. You can't be this, you can't do that. You have to. This is so wrong. No, 100% right for you, not right for them because they're not you. I mean, I think that's the big thing for me is that, you know, like I like writing. I like reading people's writings that are not cookie cutter. Like I get very bored with cookie cutter writing because it.
I have a piece of content, an article, if you will, that I wrote many, many years ago. And when I wrote it, it was, I think I've only ever shared it with one person. And when I wrote it, it was so powerful, and it speaks on racism, and it speaks on sexuality, and it speaks on religion and war, and it speaks on many very polarizing topics, which is, again, as Kathryn knows, there are three topics we don't allow on the show, and that's COVID, politics, and religion. And there's a reason why, and it's because, and I've, like I said, I've only shared this article with one other person, and the reason is because everything that I talk about is polarizing, and I expressed my personal opinions on those topics. Now, if I came on here and told everybody my personal opinions on those topics, you know, I'm going to be commended on one hand and I'm going to be attacked on the other, because society now, and this is one of the reasons I created the show, is society now has a hard time going, I love and respect you, and we can have different beliefs, right? I'm going to unite with you, even though we don't agree. I love diversity. And part of this entire show is bringing forward those struggles and, the things that we struggle with and the ways that we can be better and do better and feel better. Creative writing is one of those ways. This is one of those featured topics that can help you shine light in dark times, that can help you express yourself when you feel like you don't have a voice, right? And there's so many people who feel like that. So again, going back to spirituality, I have, new moon and full moon rituals that I do. Nothing crazy. I, will shower because I like to feel clean. I'll clean my house because I like to have it all clean when I'm doing them. I'll light candles. I'll, smudge and cleanse my home. And crystals, whatever intentions I'm setting in, I'll grab crystals. I'll grab my cards so that I can pull a reading for myself. But I will take a sheet of paper, and on one side, I will write down everything I'm releasing. And on the other side, I will write everything that I'm calling in. And then I go outside, and like you said, I burn it. I burn it. You don't have to share what you're writing with anybody else. If you do choose to, that's what, write, edit, and share is there to help you with, right? If you do choose, you want to write it. And don't forget, writing your story. We did an episode on sharing your story, and I will continue to do episodes on sharing your story. We want to share stories to inspire. And when we share our story to inspire, we don't have to take credit for it. We can write it under a pseudonym. We can write it under an alias. We don't have to share it under our name, right? But think of the amount of people you can connect with and you can help by sharing your story, by sharing the struggles, by sharing the things that people don't want to talk about. And that's why I titled the show Giving You Something to Talk About, because I want to give some people things to talk about that are going to make them feel included, make them feel respected and supported and not judged in the slightest, and okay to not be okay.
Yeah, and speaking of rituals, that is one thing I do. I have a writing ritual. Like I literally, like, in order, not just doing those 5-minute music. After a while, I realized that I needed something a little bit more, and so I have a very specific space. I sit, I write in that space at that time, almost daily, not always perfectly, but like I light a candle. I have my, like maybe I'll get a cup of tea, maybe, or have my coffee, or like it's a way to like make it so that it's a stronger writing, and it's a stronger touch into my soul and my heart, because I do think that that's really incredibly important, and I know that it's a way for my voice to come out, and I, just like you, Melissa, I really feel everybody has a story to share. Everybody has a story to share. That doesn't mean that they want to share their story, but at least getting it out on paper, out on a canvas, out on, in some form of creativity, your your voice is then able to essentially be heard in a way. And sometimes I've written something and it's been published and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have actually let that be published. Like I'm really squirmy and uncomfortable after I let it be published. And then I'm like, you know what though? But if it helps one other person, just one other person not feel like they're alone, it gives one other person maybe a hint of how they can step forward to do something else. That is so powerful. And we can't heal this planet if we don't share our story. Like and and we no longer have like quilting circles as often, or where people get together and sit in a community easily, because that's just not what our society, for a lot of large places and cities, that we've fallen out of those habits that were traditional habits for centuries. And so we're losing part of our sharing our stories with people who might need to hear them somehow in some way. And I think that's why we need to do our creative writing. Because at the very least, it's allowing our voice to come out onto a paper so that it can be used in some way, whether it's just to heal ourselves or to help somebody else maybe heal when you let it be shown more than yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Just
We're
don't
just
be
about at
scared.
that time.
Yeah, just don't be scared to write or do whatever your creative thing is. I'm not a painter, and my kids had me painting 3 weeks ago because that was our family activity. And I am like, compared to them, I'm a horrid painter. Like they have more painting skills in their hands than I have in my entire body. And yet I kind of allowed myself to relax into that creativity, and I actually painted something that I actually kind of like. Like it's not as elaborate and ornate as theirs are, but I didn't cringe when I was done. So it's part of just allow yourself to have that creativity, because that that's part of who you are. I mean, we have masculine, feminine energy in all of us, and it's good to be able to shift between the two when we want to. And so relax into it, be brave, don't be scared to do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not very good artistically, not in the slightest. Who was it who said? Was it you that said the other day that you're a stick figure? Somebody said they were a stick figure painter, drawer, artist. I'm very similar, but again, I felt into it a few months ago. We had our family our family event, and we did paintings. And I was just trying to find it actually on my phone because I did take a picture of it. But I painted something I was really proud of. It was adorable and it was silly, but I was really proud of it. And it was something that I felt good on, right? And I felt good doing it. Didn't matter whether it was perfect. It didn't matter whether, anybody else liked it. It was, I liked it. And I was expressing, my love of family and my love of, I call it my monster painting because it's a bunch of monsters actually. And each monster represents a person in my immediate family. So I absolutely love that. I love that story that you did that the other day too.
Yeah. I am definitely not I'm not the painter. Like I'm like they're like, it's time to do another painting time, and I'm like, ugh, another painting. But then I'm like, you know what? I can be creative, and whatever comes out, worst case scenario, I can paint over it.
Yeah,
If I don't like it, it just has to dry and it can be started all over again.
yeah. I remember I did a painting once and I just smudged a bunch of stuff together. And then I left it on the counter to dry. And all of a sudden, my cat had walked through it while it was still wet. So there was cat paw prints all over it, which was, again, absolutely adorable. But everything works out for a reason. And I think that even with artistry and creativity of any shape or form, creates an ability, again, to express yourself. And, if you're having a bad day, and some of our, again, most famous artists were having a bad day when they did a painting, and, it became one of their best pieces. So yeah, that's my little tidbit 2 cents for today. But all right, like I said, I was trying to find that painting, but of course I have like way too many photos on my camera, and it's like impossible to find at this point. And then as soon as we hang up, guaranteed as soon as we hang up, I will find it, because, you know, that's just the way that goes. All right. Well, I'm not going to waste anybody's time sitting here trying to find a painting that, you know, I'm obviously not finding. Kathryn, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciated it. I think that being creative and getting in touch with our intuition and expressing ourselves through that creativity is highly important.
Thank you for having me. I love having this conversation because, as I said at the beginning, I'm really passionate about having people be able to touch their creativity and not be scared to do it. Because, I mean, we are partially creative. Humanity wouldn't have gotten to where we are today if we all didn't have some creativity in us. Like, we genetically have it built into us if we just allow it. So I'm so glad that you allowed me to come and we got to have this wonderful conversation today. Good.
All right. Well, Just Alive family, that is today's episode. Today's episode has been sponsored by Write, Edit, Share, where they are offering you the information to help you write your own authentic story in book form. So go and check them out at writeeditshare.com. Today, of course, my guest host has been the amazing Kathryn Cartwright, who you can find in the description of the description of this video or podcast, however you're watching or listening. You will find her contact information in the description of this video, as well as Write, Edit, Share, which is her company, because why not sponsor? So please go follow us on our social media accounts. We are on 12 social media and podcasting platforms. You can find those on the website or on our Facebook page, or even in the description, you can find a link to our website where you can sign up for most of those. Sign up for our newsletter to see what's upcoming, because there's some amazing stuff coming up. And yeah, I am your host, Melissa Krechler, and I'm wishing you a fantastic day, night, or afternoon, depending on when and where you're watching. And I will see all of you on the next episode. Bye.